Hi, I'm Bill Bradley. Join me for a recent excerpt of American Voices. Here at American Voices, we celebrate all that America has to offer. So each week, we invite authors to tell us about a favorite place or sound in the country. Recently, we heard from Corey Brettschneider. He's a professor of political science at Brown University, and his new book is The Oath and the Office, a guide to the Constitution for future presidents. Recently, he told us about his favorite sound in the country, and today he's back to tell us about his favorite place in America. And I want to add that this is how we met. I was leaving work one day and about to leave the building. It was a day when the skies suddenly opened up and started pouring buckets of rain. Well, Professor Brettschneider volunteered and insisted on giving me his large, sturdy umbrella. Thanks a lot, Professor Brettschneider. And without further ado, here's Corey Brettschneider and his favorite place in America.
Hi, I'm Corey Brettschneider, and my favorite place in America is also one of the most historic Independence Park in Philadelphia, off Chestnut Street. It's now a national park, and there's sort of a green area, and it's 3 buildings connected. But for somebody like me that studies politics, it's really the center of the universe. In one of them, it's where the Declaration of Independence was written, in this little room, also where the Constitution itself was written, with George Washington presiding and sitting in the front. And then you walk just like a few feet and you're in a second building, which had the original House of Representatives and the original Senate. And what's significant to me about it is that the greatest inaugural speech ever given is on the second floor of that building in the Senate chamber. George Washington says just a few words. He says to members of Congress, this is even a summary, but it's so short, just 135 words. I just took the oath of office. But if I fail to live up to it, then subject me, George Washington, to criticism or upbraidings and constitutional punishment. So I guess what I think is fun to do is to be in this room and to realize, that's where he said it, and to sort of feel how tiny everything was. It was a tiny country at the time, just a fraction of the size of where we are now. And I think about that room a lot and trying to figure out how to think about things. I wasn't a great student for a long period of time. I mean, I was not an academic kid, and I think it was about 15 when I saw this TV program. As a kid, it really made me want to be a professor, called The Delicate Balance. It was these seminars run by Fred Friendly, and he sort of uses the rooms of the museum. In one, I think he's in that original room where they wrote the Declaration of the Constitution. He's sort of introducing the program. And then they use one of the other rooms, I think it's the Senate chamber, to actually do these seminars with presidents and Supreme Court justices. And he acts like he's in a law school. He has professors basically ask law school style questions. So it's like, President Ford, what would you do if a Supreme Court justice told you that you had to hand over information? Would you try to stop? And the Supreme Court justice is there and Ford is there. And they're in this, I think it's the Senate chamber. I mean, I devoured these videos when I was like 15. When I first visited Independence Hall, in a way, the connection wasn't directly to George Washington or to the writing of the document, because obviously there's no way to know those people, but it's sort of the memory of watching these amazing videos as a young kid, 15 years old. The memory of that, I think, is what was exciting to me about it. Being in the room where I guess I saw this amazing discussion happen, the best discussion I'd ever seen in my life, that going back and seeing that does kind of have a spark. But they're talking about ideas in a way that is, not just like fighting and trying to win, but trying to figure out, like, what's this whole Constitution thing about? And Fred Friendly figured out how to assemble people from all these different branches of government. Like, what would you really do in this instance in which a court said to you, President Ford, that you have to turn over information that you thought was private? And would you do it? And then he brings in, Congressman, would you play a role? Would you subpoena the information for a congressional committee? And so it is like an orchestra.
Major funding for this program was provided by the Annenberg CPB project, with additional support from the Times Mirror Company. This program has been edited in sequence.
It just grabbed me. I mean, I was really riveting TV at 15.
From the birthplace of the Constitution, national security versus freedom of the press. I'm Fred Friendly, here in the Assembly Room at Independence Hall in Philadelphia, where our nation's writ of independence was conceived and where the Constitution of the United States was framed and signed. The collision between the
And like every
government's
day
view
when
of
I'm
the
teaching,
national
that's
interest
more writing. That's
and
what
the
I'm trying to
press's
do, is to
claims
try to
under the
do
First
what they did in
Amendment.
these videos.
Subject of
It was a kind of dream, you know, to be like these people in some way. I'm not saying like the second I watched them, but I think that was a big transformative thing to make me interested in school and ideas and law and the Constitution in a way that I probably wouldn't have been if I didn't watch them. And the fact that they took place in this historic place only kind of added to it. And so that's what these videos did, was that they sort of gave me a way of a reason to care and to see why these ideas would matter, because they really, for the first time, made me care about ideas, about government, and about the kind of values of what politics is supposed to be about and sort of how it's supposed to function, and to see what real deliberation and discussion was like. So it did more than give me a career. It gave me that, but it gave me something to kind of care about in a way that was meaningful.
Thank you for listening to American Voices here on my YouTube channel. For more interviews celebrating the goodness and creativity of the American people, click the subscribe button below.